You filed your taxes, you did the right thing, and then you saw the number at the bottom of the page and your stomach dropped. Maybe it's $5,000, maybe it's $50,000, maybe it's even more than that. Now you're sitting here wondering, is there any way out of this? Can I actually negotiate with the IRS to lower how much I owe? And the answer is yes. And in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how. Before we get into it, I want to give you a little context about what this channel is and who we are. Alleviate Tax is a team of CPAs, IRS enrolled agents, and licensed attorneys who have helped thousands of Americans resolve their tax debt and get back on solid financial ground. We've negotiated over $500 million in federal tax debt settlements for our clients, and we've seen firsthand how much damage is done when people don't know their options. The tax system in this country is complicated, and honestly, a lot of that complexity is built in intentionally. The code is thousands of pages long, the rules change constantly, and most people don't have a team of accountants telling them what they owe, what they don't owe, and what they're leaving on the table. That puts everyday people at serious disadvantage. So we're building something here. This is the first in a series of videos designed to cut through all of that. No fluff, just the information that you actually need. Whether you're a W-2 employee, a business owner, or a contractor, this channel is built for you. We're gonna cover everything: IRS notices, audits, tax debt, and a whole lot more. Today, we're breaking down everything that you need to know about negotiating IRS debt. We're talking about the real programs that the IRS offers, who qualifies for them, and what your smartest first move is on the money that you owe that you can't pay. Let's get into it. All right, now before we talk solutions, let's talk consequences, because ignoring the IRS debt is one of the worst things that you can do. If you have unpaid tax debt sitting there, the IRS doesn't just forget about it. They have up to 10 years to collect, and they will use every tool available to them. That means tax liens, which is a legal claim against your property that wrecks your credit and makes it nearly impossible for you to sell your home or take out a loan. It can also mean bank levies, where the IRS can literally drain your bank account overnight. And another consequence means wage garnishments, where your employer gets a notice and the IRS starts taking a chunk of your paycheck before you even see it. Here's the thing the IRS doesn't advertise. They would actually rather work out a deal with you than go through all of that. Collections are expensive and time-consuming for them, and that's why these negotiation programs exist. The first and often easiest place to start is with a penalty abatement, which simply means asking the IRS to remove or reduce the penalties tacked onto your debt. The penalties on your IRS debt can be enormous. The failure to pay penalty alone is 0.5% of what you owe every single month, up to 25% of your total tax bill. And interest on top of that, your debt can grow fast. But the IRS can waive those penalties under a few circumstances. The most common is called the first-time penalty abatement. So if you have a clean compliance history, meaning you haven't had penalties in the past 3 years and you're current on your filings, you may be able to get those penalties wiped out just by asking. There's also reasonable cause abatement, which applies if something outside your control caused you to miss the deadline. We're talking serious illness, natural disaster, a death in the family, situations where any reasonable person would have struggled to pay or to file on time. Penalty abatements won't erase your underlying tax debt, but it can significantly reduce what you owe. And it's often the smartest first step in negotiating with the IRS. If you can eventually pay what you owe, but you just need more time, a payment plan is probably your best path forward. The IRS offers two main options here. The first is a short-term payment plan. That gives you up to 180 days to pay off your balance in full. There's no setup fee, but keep in mind, interest and penalties will keep adding up until that balance is at zero. Now, the second is a long-term installment agreement. This spreads your payments out over as many as 72 months. A total of 6 years. So you'll pay a setup fee, which ranges from about $31 if you set up directly online and up to $225 if you go through other methods. Now, a word of caution for small business owners specifically. If you're not current on your quarterly estimated tax payments, the IRS may not approve your installment agreement. You need to stay compliant going forward. They won't negotiate with someone who keeps falling behind. But the good news is once you're in a payment plan, collection actions like wage garnishments and bank levies are typically paused. Option 3, a partial pay installment agreement. Here's where it gets interesting. What if your monthly payment under a regular installment agreement still won't pay off your full debt before the IRS collection window closes? That window, called the Collection Statute Expiration Date, or CSED, is 10 years from the date the IRS assessed your tax debt. After that date, the IRS legally cannot collect any longer. If your proposed monthly payment won't cover your full balance before the CSET date, you may qualify for a partial pay installment agreement, or a PPIA. Under the PPIA, you make a manageable monthly payment based on what you can actually afford, and when that CSET hits, whatever the balance is remaining is forgiven. Now, you'll need to submit a detailed financial statement showing your income, expenses, and assets. Now, the IRS will review it to confirm that you genuinely cannot pay more, but for people in serious financial hardship, this can be a powerful tool. All right, now this is a big one, the one you've probably heard about in commercials. Settle your tax debt for pennies on the dollar. It's called the Offer and Compromise, or the OIC. And yes, it's real, but it's also one of the most misunderstood programs out there. Here's how it works. You're going to submit a formal offer to the IRS proposing to settle your entire debt for less than the full amount owed. All right, now the IRS evaluates your offer based on three things: your assets, your income, and your future earnings potential. Now, if the IRS determines that your offer represents the most they can reasonably expect to collect before the CSET date, they'll accept it. But here's the reality check. The IRS only accepted about 1/3 of OIC applications in the recent years, and it's not a magic wand. You need to genuinely qualify, meaning the math has to show that you can truly not pay the full amount. To apply, you're going to have to pay a $205 non-refundable application fee and an initial payment of up to 20% of your offer amount. Now, if you qualify as low income, those fees may be waived. And if everything checks out and your application is approved, your tax debt can potentially be reduced by up to 99%. We've seen it happen firsthand with our own clients at Alleviate Tax. It's not the normal, but it is absolutely real. Now, there are a few things to consider before applying for the OIC. The application process is time-consuming and detailed, and also paperwork heavy. A mistake or missing documents can mean that your offer is returned without even being considered, and most OIC results take a few years to come to fruition. That's why most people who pursue an OIC work with a tax professional to put together the strongest possible case in the most reasonable time possible. One more important note: you must be current on all of your tax filings before the IRS will even look at your application, so no unfiled returns. Now, what if things are so tight right now that you genuinely cannot pay any payments at all? The IRS has a program for that too. It's called the Currently Non-Collectible Status, or the CNC. So if you can demonstrate that paying anything towards your tax debt would prevent you from covering basic living expenses like housing, food, utilities, transportation, the IRS can place your account into a currently non-collectible status and temporarily halt all collection activity. So no wage garnishments, no bank levies, and no aggressive letters. However, this is not debt forgiveness. Interest and penalties keep accruing, and if your financial situation improves, the IRS will eventually resume collections. The CNC status is the best for breathing room, a way to stabilize your situation while you work towards a long-term situation. One more option worth mentioning, especially if you're going through or have gone through a divorce, is the innocent spouse relief. If your spouse or former spouse racked up tax debt without your knowledge, you may be able to have a portion of that liability removed entirely. This isn't a negotiation to reduce debt. It's a legal separation of responsibility. So if you think that applies to you, speak with the tax professional as soon as possible. There are some strict deadlines and documentation required, though. Okay, so let's bring it all together. If you owe the IRS money and you can't pay them, here's what you need to know. You have options: real, legitimate programs that the IRS itself offers. Penalty abatement, payment plans, partial pay agreements, offering compromises, and the currently non-collectible status. Doing nothing is the worst choice that you can make. The debt grows, the IRS escalates, and your options start to narrow down. The earlier you act, the more leverage you have. The IRS is far more willing to work with someone who can come to the table proactively. Most people who try to navigate these programs alone either get rejected, accept a deal that's worse than what they actually would qualify for, or make a paperwork mistake that costs them months of progress. That's where Alleviate Tax comes in. Alleviate Tax has resolved over $500 million in federal tax debt for our clients. Our team includes CPAs, IRS enrolled agents, and licensed tax attorneys, people who negotiate with the IRS every single day. We offer free consultations. There's no obligation, no pressure, just real conversations about your situation and what your best options are. If professional help is something that you're considering, here's what I want you to do right now. Call the number below. One of our tax professionals will review your case and tell you exactly what programs you may qualify for. That one phone call could save you thousands of dollars and years of stress. But at the end of the day, our main goal here is simple: to educate and to make sure that you know your options. So whether you call us or handle this on your own, the most important thing is that you take action. You now know more than most people do about how to fight back against the IRS. Use it. And if you go at it alone, we genuinely wish you the best of luck. If this video helped you understand your options, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Every week we break down complex tax topics in plain English so you know exactly where you stand. Drop a comment below if you have any questions about your specific situation, and I'll see you on the next one.